Here at Embark, we are all about providing the highest level of care for teens and young adults who may be struggling with complex behavioral health challenges. So to kind of meet that need, we offer a full range of services. We have residential treatment, partial hospitalization, intensive outpatient, and virtual intensive outpatient. We want to make sure families have access to the right support no matter where they are at in their journey. So we can kind of move them up and down that continuum as needed. One thing that kind of really sets us apart is our CASA developmental framework. So CASA is commitment, acceptance, security, and attunement. That really helps us teach parents and loved ones how to co-regulate and build stronger, healthier relationships with each other. So that will create a foundation for lasting healing. And luckily, we have our clinical director on the call who will tell us more about that here in just a few minutes. So today we're going to highlight our Benton program. As I mentioned, that's what you guys are all here for. Our program in Benton is a residential level of care specifically designed for adolescents and teen boys ages 12 to 17. So within a residential level of care, we're able to provide 24/7 support in a safe and home-like environment. As you can see behind me, this is our lobby. We really have a beautiful, welcoming campus. I will show you guys a video here in just a minute to see. But it offers that safe 24/7 support, like I said, from our compassionate and dedicated team who you guys will meet shortly. All right, so with that, I am going to pop up a quick video of our gorgeous campus, and then we will move in to meet the team. Share my screen. All right, can everybody see? Okay, hopefully the sound will come through too. Let me know.
Welcome to Embark Behavioral Health in Benton, Tennessee. Embark Behavioral Health is a short-term residential treatment program for adolescent and teen boys that provides a safe, nurturing, and healing environment. Just an hour's drive from Chattanooga, Embark Behavioral Health is located near the gorgeous Hiwassee River and a unique bamboo grove. When outpatient treatment is not enough, residential care can provide relief and stabilization. A residential treatment center is a place where individuals can experience personalized 24-hour care, pursuing therapy away from the stress of their home environment. Short-term residential programs are shorter in duration than long-term residential care and have an average length of stay of 90 days. Additionally, these programs are frequently reimbursed by insurance. Along with our evidence-based therapeutic approach, our residential programs help teens overcome the mental health issues that may impact everyday life, such as depression, anxiety, social isolation, trauma, mood, family conflict, and more. Embark is the most trusted name in teen and young adult mental health treatment, serving our families for more than 25 years. We're driven to find the help your family needs. If you're looking for support, reach out today.
All right. All right, so we are going to kick this off with the team here. I want to introduce everyone to Chris Jostonow first. He is our executive director at our Benton program. Chris, thank you so much for being here today. Let's see. I heard you have an interesting story here. You weren't originally from Tennessee, correct?
I am not from Tennessee. I did live on my but I don't remember a whole lot of that. So, Yeah, for me, it's been kind of a wild ride. I realized that my calling to be a therapist was going to be set very early on. I was not cool in high school, and I did not have a girlfriend, but all my friends did, and so I became their relationship experts and helpers, and gave them tips and tricks. And so, I quickly realized, like, hey, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be a therapist somehow. So. I wish that I had a very traditional go to school and move on story, but I chose to get married and have a kid very young. And so I got to struggle through school with a family and trying to figure all of those things out. But, finally did make it. I could probably be a doctor for the amount of years I was in school, but didn't quite make it that far. So just, moving forward. The one thing that I did do, though, is when I was in undergraduate school, I started working at a residential treatment center. And I started as one of the life coaches or the residential staff, and just I was the guy that woke them up in the morning and came back later on in the day and put them back to sleep. So got a crash course on a lot of good things, and I'm one of the few that I often call the crazies that want to work with teenagers. I had internships with adults, tried to work with divorce, tried to work with, and just didn't want any of that. So it's teenagers for me. Really kind of bounced all over the Western United States, worked at long-term residential treatment centers in Utah, also up in Idaho. My last job before here was a traditional boarding school in Lake Tahoe, California, 2 miles away from a ski resort. So tough job that we had to take the kids skiing every day and supervise and make sure things were good there. But, have always really just wanted to help out teenagers and, girls, boys, didn't matter. All genders didn't matter. Just want to help people, and so, um, you know, actually found Embark. I kind of had known about some of the programs that merged earlier on to create Embark, and kind of kept an eye on that. Called the gentleman who had this position open to be the executive director. He said, I've got some positions in the Washington D.C. area for clinics and things like that. But the one I'm really having a hard time filling is Tennessee, and nobody wants to be there. And I went, that's me. I got it. I want it. Let me get there. And so came out and visited. My wife and I spent 2 or 3 days driving around the area. Had never seen so many trees in our lives, and said, "Yep, this is where we're headed next." So been here about 2.5 years. Have kind of had to switch over from long-term treatment to shorter term with insurance-based reimbursement, which has been kind of adventure. But I really love that we're able to hit a different clientele and really help those who I hadn't been able to help before. Working families who were a lot more like me and have the abilities to help and kind of open up the doors for a lot of other people. So, yes, it's been about 25 years of kind of around the way, but Tennessee might be where we stay for a long time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know for sure. So what was it? The trees.
Listen
What
on
was it?
mute.
What else drew you in? What brought you to our Benton program? And can you just tell us a little bit about what families can expect when their loved ones admit into care with us?
Sorry, say that again. For some reason, I did not hear any of that.
Oh, um, okay. So I was just wondering, what was it that drew you in? I know you mentioned the trees and the nature and the beauty, but what brought you? Can you hear me now? I'm just making sure.
Okay, still not there. What brought me here?
Yeah, what brought you
Basically.
here? And
Okay.
then what can families expect when they admit into care with us?
When they hear. Okay, sorry. I don't know why my speaker's not working.
That's
Um,
okay.
more so than just wanting to get to a new place personally, and get to Tennessee, really was able to catch the vision of what was going on here and with Embark overall. Just really seeing it being very people centered, very family and help centered. I know every organization is going to say we have relationships and we build those and we do those things, but really felt it more here than anywhere else. For families coming in, That's what we want to have them feel. I always put myself in their shoes. I've got teenagers. I've got, several kids of my own. What would it be like to have them come walk through those doors and go, okay, I don't know any of these people. We've talked on the phone. How do we really connect with them and leave our child there? And so from the outset, early phone calls, we want to make it as comfortable as possible. We'll do virtual tours. We'll do multiple phone calls. We'll have people come. We want to spend time with the families, and so it's not a quick just drop your child off and get here. We want to answer as many questions as we can. So we'll spend several hours with the families until they're ready to really kind of make that time to where they can disconnect a little bit. And all families are different. Some are more ready than others to have their child here. But what they can count on is just really making sure that we are not only keeping their child safe, which is always number one, making sure that we're addressing whatever concerns that they came with, but really keeping the family involved too. If there are other referral partners or school districts or other people that need to be in the loop, really just want to make sure that everybody is well informed and part of the treatment team and part of what's going on. And so we have the thing that I think I'm most proud of in the 2.5 years I've been here is I've been very intentional in hiring the right people. Now, they may not have all had the exact amount of mental health residential experience, but finding the right people who catch the vision also, that can learn into roles and do different things, and so as we've been able to create a good team here that all understand that people first philosophy and that safety first really has made a big difference in building their relationships, which, regardless of diagnosis, I think that's the number one thing that people need is that relationship and that trust to say, I'm safe enough, I'm comfortable enough, and I can go, I can now start working on things. So that's probably the biggest thing that I want families to really feel and understand when they come for visitations during the months. We have a couple of family days every month. We want to continue that and really let them know that they're not alone and they have the support. We all know that if it were cancer we were working with, they'd have a long list of support. But with mental health, it's not as long, or unfortunately, still has that stigma with it. So really wanting families to know things are good, things are safe, they're in good hands, and we're going to do all we can to help them.
Well, thank you so much for your dedication. It clearly comes across when you're speaking. So I just appreciate you and your support and your servant leadership.
You're welcome.
All
Thank you.
right. Yeah, we are going to move right along to our clinical director, Peter Marvin. So Peter, thank you for being here today as well. I briefly touched in the beginning about our CASA model. So that, as those of us at Embark know, is a larger part of the Embark treatment approach. So would you mind giving the audience just a quick summary of the Embark treatment approach, and maybe even an example that comes to mind to zero in on its efficacy?
Sure, I can do that. So with Embark, what we do is really standing on the shoulders of giants. We haven't done anything new. We just packaged it in a way that make it very palatable to teens, to parents, and actually our staff too. And that's actually a big draw. So for me, and I guess this kind of goes with Chris saying, residential treatment is not anything new. I've worked in residential treatment, short-term and long-term in California, and I've worked in health and human services in California, where I interface with many, 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 many residential programs. And so before I came here, just like Chris, I was drawn here for a reason. To come from California to Tennessee is a big move. And I also was out of the residential model. And when I was looking for work and considering moving to Tennessee, the last thing I was going to do was come to residential, because we all know what the reputation is. But then I came across Embark and I felt there was something different. There was something different. And it kept drawing me back until I finally went into that process. And one of it is there's a focus on getting the right people. And it's not easy to get a job here. I don't care if it's my position, or if it's a position that you think is not as impactful in dietary or facilities. It's a long process and many, many interviews, a lot of introspective in that process, so we get the right people. But then the next thing that makes Embark really special is they're going to give everybody a core principle of what we call our CASA model to all of our employees and to the kids and the families. And it's a nice framework that everybody can kind of communicate on. It is essentially, it is a developmentally appropriate and trauma-informed type of care for kids, so that when we are working with kids, when we give these principles to staff that could be young and new, but they understand these principles. So when they see a kid emoting and having a really hard day, instead of saying, "Hey, you just need to behave, you need to do this," they understand they're coming from that idea of like, and that commitment part. If I'm committed to this kid, no matter where they're at, I'm trying to work on them. That acceptance piece of saying, I know they're trying their best, that this is their best, this is where they're at. They're going to allow that space for that kid to be able to calm down, be able to go through that process of that stress response, and then come back and try to help them and create that security. So with CASA, we have a commitment, acceptance, security, and attunement. And so we do all of our principles and our interventions based off of these 4 different areas. And the commitment, is simply that it's really coming from Carl Rogers, an unconditional positive regard for the kid and for the families and for the parents, that they are trying their best. Because sometimes, we find out, we have a difficult kid and we go, why are they so difficult? Then you meet the parents, you go, that's why they're so difficult, But our commitment is to the whole family and understanding that this didn't happen out of a vacuum. This is something that they are doing the best they can. So if we come to that and then we accept that they're trying to do that, and that next piece of acceptance, that they're doing their best, come alongside them, we're developing that rapport pretty instantaneously. Where Chris was talking about where we spend many hours with the families in the process, even when they get here. We spend sometimes a whole afternoon. I'll spend with the family, get their whole story, get them to understand, and then we quickly are working towards getting the right diagnosis and assessment, and coming up and formulating a good plan for that kid, all still within that framework of CASA. The security is a big one for kids, so they need to be able to have a safe place to have a bad day. We're not a type of program where if you don't act right or behave right, you're going to be in a lot of trouble or there's behavioral consequences. That's not how we work. We keep a kid safe, allow them that space to have a bad day. And then when they're first coming in, so we have a lot of kids that are very dysregulated. Maybe they have trauma, or they're on the spectrum and they're undiagnosed. They do not know how to themselves. We allow them, we're observing, getting information, communicating this to our clinical team, to our psychiatrist, to the nursing, saying this is what's going on, this is what we're seeing. And then when the kid is coming down from that, then we enter into them and say, it's okay, you're good, and then help them try to process that and then work on coping skills. So it's not about trying to force a behavior on a kid. So that's really big. And so this is where the CASA framework is really important, especially with our residential staff, where most of the time in residential treatment, we have residential staff, they don't have their PhDs in like behavioral health, right? These are newer people. They're new into the field. They may have an undergrad or something in this area, but they're new to actually put it in practice. But when they have these principles of saying, this is why you're doing this, is why you're taking this time, it allows that good space for a kid to grow. In the end, the attunement, if we're committed, if we're accepting of this kid, if we keep a good, secure place for a kid, then we can be correctly attuned, which is essentially empathy in action. That we can come along to where the kids need and be able to communicate them in a way that they understand. That is different based off of if they're on the spectrum, they don't know how to communicate, and we're trying to teach them how to do that. If they really have more of an acute trauma, being able to explain to them to be calm in that situation, then teach them those skills, and then eventually work towards acceptance of where they're at. So all these things are really important. It's a framework that is embedded not only in the staff, but all of our kids and families go through a Facebook that integrate these principles into all aspects of the program, which is over a few months. And the framework for both the therapy and family therapy is all in line with this. So when there's a whole section when kids are ready, that they can now communicate safely in family, they can emote correctly, if you want to say, or the parents can understand it. The parents have now learned to be attuned to what the kids are. Well, now they can work on repair and relationships. So all these things are a framework that the families get and have access to. And then they can also utilize within our family therapy that happens weekly. We have a parent support group where they can understand these principles. And then we have families come on campus once a month to do a Family Days event. The other thing that we do is we try to make these all fit in within whatever the family's needs are, whatever theoretical modality will work. So this isn't a brand new theoretical modality of treatment. Like I said, this is stuff standing on the shoulders of giants, everything that's done in the past. So this works well with different approaches, whether it's trauma-focused CBT or DBT initiatives. This works really well and allows the parents to kind of come alongside. And then we will also provide different like parenting programs or models that are out there so the families have access when they leave. All this stuff is meant to be seamless, so we have a nice common language to speak on, both staff, kids, and families.
Perfect. That's a perfect explanation. Thank you so much. Do you have a quick story you want to share, maybe about when you saw this kind of work in real time?
We had a kid come in here, and within 12 minutes of being here, he threw a rock through a window. And he was lit up pretty quick. And he actually got the nickname of Wreck-It Ralph. Not the best nickname, but that's how they were trying to process it. Like, this kid didn't mind breaking on things. He peed on a floor, if I remember. He was not the most pleasant little dude to be with. But everybody could see when the family came in, the panic, the parents went white. Like, my kid just broke a window. We're like, it's okay. It's all right. Come on in. And so the family were like, we know, we can see where he's at. He's scared. We was at trauma informed. We could see that he was scared. We could see that he was anxious. We could see that the parents were also scared and anxious. And so we're like, we got this. We're going to be okay. And so there was constant communication, obviously with the kid, but also with the family where he was at. This kid did not have a safe place to be able to express. When he developed a whole life where he would be explosive, get into property destruction, and then he could get what he wants. And you do that for 12 years, and guess what? That's a really bad situation, which we see a lot of our kids get into. But this little guy, he kept doing it, and it was constant. He was getting support from all of our staff. So it wasn't just a therapist. It wasn't just me. It was Chris getting in. It was nursing. It was our dietary getting in to say, what do you need to try to feel a little bit better today so you can face the day? Is there a meal that would help you really well? And if I remember this kid, he also was one of our facility people, just spoke into him once, and it just resonated with him. It was still in that CASA framework, and he kind of just started to finally get it. So it was that collaborative relational effort of following that model of really trying to just commit an acceptance of that kid. It gave him that secure place to finally be honest and be vulnerable and work towards that, and then be able to communicate with his family without fear. So he left here. He was honestly one of our role model students. He was doing amazing. But those first 30, 45 days were trying to how can we I think he maybe even broke a computer in half. I mean, it was tough. And we're working with the family. Please don't send me kids that want to destroy the whole facility, but we worked with the family. We're rolling with it. We're rolling with the difficulty, and we're with him the whole time and not shaming him for it. And that was what was really important. Yeah. Allowing that space to really just be honest and honestly feel love and then feel joy.
Mm. Wow, that is an amazing story. I remember that kiddo too. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thanks again for being here and just kind of explaining our clinical approach. So let's see here. We are going to move into Dr. Sims. Dr. Sims is our phenomenal psychiatrist here at our Benton Residential. Embark is very fortunate to have specialized positions such as hers, and we feel very lucky to have her. So Dr. Sims, thank you for being here today. As I mentioned, your role is very integral to our client care at Embark. So would you mind just telling us a little bit more about your role and maybe some fun? What's a little favorite part of your time working here at Benton?
Okay, well, thanks for having me and including me in this process. I've been here since the Embark at the Forge have opened, so I was fortunate to kind of see it from the beginning to now. And so my goal as a child adolescent psychiatrist is basically I provide the medication management here at the Forge. The kids refer me as Doc Sims. I've been informed by parents several times that they're not allowed to say doctor. Our rigid thinkers make sure that they say it right. So parents have been scolded if they say Dr. Sim. So we've kind of taken on the role of Doc Sim. So which has been different, which has been playful, and the kids like it. So like I said, I do the medication management, and so I work closely with them and our wonderful nursing staff, therapists, and our residential staff to kind of collect information to helps me with the medication management journey. When they come, I tend to will meet or actually talk to via phone with the parents. And it's usually a pretty lengthy conversation and interview. Sometimes it's an hour. Some today there was one I went an hour and a half to talk with the parents to understand their child and basically their psychiatric journey. Because my goal is to see the full mental health journey of our students, so that I don't get tunnel vision on what providers before me have done. Having done outpatient practice and done some inpatient work as well, you kind of get into that fix it mode. And I think with residential work, we need to kind of broaden our thought process to see that what as providers and my colleagues out in the world have possibly missed to where we've ended up in this kind of situation. So my goal in taking parents through that journey, as painful it may be for them, is to find possible loopholes in their treatment from a psychiatrist perspective, and to either solidify either the existing diagnosis or confirm a diagnosis of suspicion. So I like to be the puzzle person and try to see how they can fit together and how I can help that pathway with what I do. Depending on the severity of the symptoms upon observation and actually collecting the information from student, parents, and even our staff, we'll kind of designate how quick the medication changes may be. Example, Rick Raff, we didn't wait a week to make medication changes, okay? Those medication changes happen pretty quickly to kind of try to kind of gain control of the explosive behavior. So it always depends on how, quick I have to respond, but I try to meet the kid and observe them a little bit before I kind of make some changes, if at all possible. My goal as a psychiatrist is to hopefully augment the other areas of treatment that we have. Most of the boys come in with symptoms that have reached a point to where they're unable to really apply the skills that they've learned along the way. For example, if they're so depressed, they have no motivation to kind of do the skills that they've been taught. If they're overwhelmed with anxiety, they may not be able to function adequately in school. Even our ADHDers, if they're too hyper and impulsive, they can't stop, think, and apply before they do. So it's what I can do to implement those skills so that what the therapists add and what residential staff does, so that they could possibly apply those things in the community and as they get home. So because those therapeutic tools that they learn are priceless, and we try to help those families and the kid to gain and apply those at home as we apply them here, because through their psychiatric struggles they've endured, it's really a lot of it affects these families tremendously, and our goal is to try to get them to a manageable level as much as possible so they can continue that process as they move forward.
Thank you for sharing that. Would you mind telling us a little bit too about kind of when you're thinking about discharge and when the kids go home, and how much of an importance you put on having their medications stabilized, having a psychiatrist lined up if they are going somewhere that's not close in our vicinity?
We really, because of knowing the wait list that's kind of out there upon discharge, if they already have a psychiatrist, we've started to kind of tell people to go ahead and make it about 3 months out, just so, because I can just personal speaking, if they get out, I know if I wait till they call me, then I'm not going to have something for 3 to 4 months. So we go ahead and we encourage the families, if they already have those providers, to kind of go ahead and make those appointments early so that we have that easy transition to their previous providers, should they be keeping them upon discharge. With that, some of the medications we use, because of some shortages and stuff like that, we also like to put into play whether or not these medications that I am going to possibly prescribe can be accessible. So sometimes it involves actually contacting the pharmacy to see what their supply is. because the worst thing is when we've started something and we've had them on it for 90 days and they go home and then the pharmacy says we're short of it and we can't have it. So we started to even implement that to kind of make sure the transition of going home as far as medication management is also as smooth as possible. When we don't have, if they haven't had a consistent psychiatrist or a therapist, we have kind of put in place an individual that helps with that discharge planning, to allow them to kind of set up programs, get them an IOP, get them in PHP, to kind of help that transition of care so that we don't have a complete drop off as far as management and as far as support for the families, as far as therapy, as well as medication management.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Doc. Thanks all three of you for being here. We're so grateful to have you guys. And that is our team in Benton. So we have about 20 minutes. I want to kind of open it up for some Q&A here. If you want to put your questions in the chat, feel free, or just come off mute and ask away. What insurances do we take? So we can work with any insurance. The first part of our admissions process is doing a verification of benefits to check the family's mental health benefits. So any commercial insurance, though, we can work with. Unfortunately, we can't do any state-funded Medicaid, TRICARE, that kind of stuff. But any commercial insurance we will work with, and like I said, verify benefits right away. If the benefits aren't something that the family is comfortable with, we can always offer either a single case agreement, or payment plans, even to kind of help if their out-of-pocket costs are really high. We can do payment plans up to 12 months for the family. For referrals, if you're referring to this program directly, feel free to send it directly to me. I will pop my info in the chat for you guys. That really gives me an opportunity to reach out and connect with the family firsthand and kind of help them through our admissions process. I know residential is very scary for a lot of families. So I love that ability to be able to connect with them on the front end and kind of help navigate them through that process. So feel free to send referrals directly over to me.
Kristen, I'll grab a couple of these.
Okay,
First one,
thanks.
how to handle needs for psychological testing that may arise. We do that a lot, actually. We have kids who are coming in and we're trying to figure out diagnoses or, really solidify things. So as we identify some need, we like to have them in the program a little bit before we'll do the testing so we can see some true colors first. But we've got professionals that come in and will do the testing here on site so that it's more comfortable for the students. And then, kind of provide that. They will then, write the lovely reports that they write. We'll get that to parents. We'll have continued conversations with what that means. When this may be the first time their child's getting a ASD diagnosis and what that means, and kind of going forward how we can help shape school and for future treatment. But yes, we will definitely have professionals come in and do that psych testing. How many kids are we licensed for? Right now, we have beds for 24. We would love to fill that up and expand. I think that might mean we need to build a few buildings, but I'm happy to drive a few nails and paint a few walls to get some more kids in. And then the typical ratio is 1 to 4. So we'll have staffing for enough here to be able to not only, kind of supervise students at all times, but also be able to pull one who might be struggling out a little bit easier. We're usually able to do one-on-one staffing if needed, and kind of prevent going to emergency room in a lot of ways. Sometimes we'll need to, but we can prevent that with the one-on-one staffing pretty easily. The nice thing about staff is that a lot of times we'll say, hey, we have a need for one-on-one staff, and I will get 15 staff that will say, hey, can we come in and do that? So it's not just the staff who happen to be here on shift. So.
And as far as OCD treatment, we do work with OCD. A lot of our kids come in, they may not even have that diagnosed. So a lot of times that's going to be appropriate assessment and sometimes testing to make sure and to verify that. We will do exposure treatment, and we generally will integrate that with our residential staffing. So we're trying to look for patterns. So the therapist will work in our treatment teams and work with our residential staffing in order to prompt the clients to be able to engage in whatever kind of coping skills, scaling, and stuff like that. So it's kind of done throughout their whole stay. So it can be daunting at first for kids that struggle with OCD because they're being kind of forced to do it. But then when they're leaving here, they're doing it on their own. They're going to be doing it autonomously. They're going to be engaging in these kind of behaviors to get it ready.
A couple more. Education. It's a great question. We do have parents and others realize that we are not, education primary. That's not our first focus. But we are going to keep up and do what we can to help get them, staying on track. We utilize an online service, Mountain Point Academy, who will kids will log in and they'll do those things. We also have we've got two academic coordinators who are full-time, who will be in a classroom setting, with the students all day. Our coaches will be there to be able to kind of guide through those processes. The Mountain Point Academy really does a good job of evaluating where the students are, in their educational stuff, what credits they need, what classes they are. It's about 3 hours a day. But we're finding a lot of what we're doing is not so much, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's a lot of, hey, this is how to be in a class. It is, executive functioning of take your materials out. What do you need? How do we focus? And so definitely starting where the student is with that. Now, I will say our Tennessee students are a little bit different. The Tennessee Department of Education is our overachievers, and they want us to provide more than we can provide during the day. So what we will do with those students is we will work with their home school district to get on the homebound program, and then work really closely with the home district so that they're keeping up even more specifically to what the students need there. So as we identify that we've got a Tennessee student coming in, we will contact parents immediately and contact the school district and say, hey, this is what we need to do to be able to get the work that they need. So, what else might we have?
So someone asked about a female program. I know we have obviously those on the East Coast that I mentioned. Chris, is there any plans for females in Tennessee that you know of?
If I have my way, yes. Once we build one of those nice buildings, my staff think I'm crazy. They don't want both male and female genders on campus. I think it's the most amazing thing. I'm trying to tell them, I'm like, hey, the girls in therapy are easier because they talk. You get some drama, but they talk. The boys, not so much. So, I'm trying to kind of sell them on this. But, I know that as we expand and grow, we want to be more inclusive to not only girls, but all genders. So.
Perfect. You want to talk about some of the experiential activities? We do rec therapy every day. We do equine therapy once a week. What else, Chris, do you want to throw in there? Or Peter?
we're taking these kids back old school where they don't have their video games, they don't have their phones, they don't have their TVs. They have to go outside and run around. And they have to do what I had to do when I grew up. I'm like, you stay outside as long as you possibly can. And once it's dark, come in. So I really told the staff, like, we are outside as much as possible. So they're out riding bikes around campus. We have 55 acres that, the ride around campus, hiking around there, playing gaga ball, which I never knew what gaga ball was. I can't wait to play, but they're playing gaga ball, they're playing kickball, they're playing football, all of these things here on campus, and then we'll expand into other activities. We sit right on the Hiwassee River, which, as I understand it, is of the two rivers that we're near, that's the one that's a little better for river floating. So we'll take the kids up, we'll float the river for a couple hours, we'll get them in the water, we'll go hiking, we'll do everything we can. We'll also do a leisure education of, hey, here are some other options in the community. We'll go rock climbing, go to movies, go to museums, things that are a little more traditional, but really to introduce them to activities. So they're busy. I tell the staff all the time, we can ward off a lot of boredom based behaviors by keeping them running around a lot. And so the staff really buy into that and keep them moving. For some, it's the first time they've ever done these activities. We've had students that didn't know how to ride a bike that learn how to ride a bike. We've had students who learn to swim, learn to do all these different things that we can just get out and go do. So,
and we have a pickleball court.
yeah.
Pickleball is a huge thing right now, so we have that.
And our treatment a lot of times is also very integrated into what their treatment needs are. So like our recreational therapist is integrating not only just these activities, but like DBT skills within those activities. So, and then they coordinate. So right now our recreational therapists, one of our therapists are trying to coordinate what DBT skills, how they're being done, and then how they're being processed, say in group therapy and then in individual therapy. So there's like a really good, great communication intersection of these activities. Our therapists also have the ability where we do a lot of traditional in office therapy. There are times where it does not make sense for our kids, like a Wreck-It Ralph situation. We keep going to that kid did not need to be cramped up in that room. So we had to both work with him to be able to go outside and be able to do stuff, and then eventually teach him how to be able to sit for 53 minutes in an office so that when he went home and worked with the therapist, it wouldn't just fall apart. So that's where our therapists have to be able to kind of integrate that outdoor and experiential model, and then prepare the kids to be able to do more traditional outpatient when they leave.
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions? Anything you guys feel like we didn't touch on, Chris, Peter, or Doc?
I just want to know when people are going to come visit us. You're all welcome. Come see it. Come check it out. Let me know your favorite food ahead of time. Our chef is the best I've ever had in any place I've been. He does a really good job of, let's talk about him for a little bit. Nutrition is so important. He does an amazing job of figuring out what the kids want, will eat, what they'll do, how they'll do it. He'll sit down with him. And my favorite story of his that he told me is he had an interview with a kid and said, I hate tomatoes. I will not eat tomatoes. Absolutely hate tomatoes. He said, what about pizza? Oh, I love pizza. He's like, what about spaghetti? Absolutely love spaghetti. And he didn't have the heart to tell him, well, those are tomatoes, because he didn't want to ruin his food for him. But, he will go figure out what it is. It is definitely not just here's your dinner and go eat it. It's let's see where we're at. He shifts gears every day. He'll find out what kid needs what with going on. He'll say, what do you need to feel better today? And the kid said, you know what? I need chicken and waffles today. So he will put away what he's making and start making chicken and waffles or whatever it is. He's one who really catches the vision. He's told me he does not and will not go back to working in restaurants. He will only work for this because he knows the purpose of feeding these kids and taking care of them. So
his chicken and waffles are so good.
In the chicken waffles, to add to it, we had a kid who he was kind of an older kid. I think he was like maybe 17. He was kind of quiet, kind of a little odd duck, and he was struggling with his sister had took her own life the year prior, and it was coming up to her birthday, and he's talking about it. And Dan, our chef, gets a hold of this and says, well, what was her favorite food? And he was like, it was chicken waffles. And he said, okay, you're going to help me make it. So they went together, made chicken and waffles together, and then he served all the kids and the staff chicken and waffles, and then spent time saying, this was my sister's favorite food. This is what my sister was like. I was able to kind of give that, wonderful grieving process in that meal and share that with them. And it was an amazing restorative event for that kid. And I think that's an example of how we're trying to be in tune with on every level what the kids need, and to not just do the minimum, but go above and beyond.
Thanks for sharing that, Peter. Doc, any final words?
Just on that note with Chef, is that he also kind of understands how medication kind of plays a role. So with decreasing appetite, especially boys, that's kind of definitely a thing that they're definitely against, which affects, compliance at times at home. So he and I have worked together to kind of figure out kind of knowing medication is going to decrease the appetite and how to adjust. And ex-staff is actually gives me a lot of information with regards to that, so that I can kind of have an idea of where that is, and how I can adjust my stuff to kind of make sure that it doesn't affect them, so that compliance isn't hopefully a major issue with regard to that. So it just gives you another example of the team approach that's here on every level, because we got to basically, if it was in our home, understanding kind of all the different levels that are needing to keep the kid as stable as possible when we kind of when they have to go home. I think that's one of the sad things about this journey, is when the kid wants to go home, but is scared to go home because they know they have to apply it, and the fear that they may have of not doing well. And so it's also helping them through that and realizing that you're going to make mistakes, but remember, you have more tools kind of in your pocket now to be successful than we had before, and just kind of rely on the hard work that they've done since they've been here.
Yeah, thank you for that, Doc. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for all your questions. We love all the questions. And feel free to contact me directly. Like I said, I put my info in the chat. If you have any other questions afterwards, always feel free to reach out. I'm always available for you guys and for families. So lastly, again, I just want to thank our Benton team for being here with us today. And thank you all for joining. So that's all I've got for you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Come see us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.